Road Hustler.
The Road Hustlers come floorboarding out of the whiskey country in a flat-out story of a hard-driving, car-wrecking whiskey war. Fighting the feds, mauling the mob, loving the sweet things. Exposing the billion-dollar bootleg business. Starring Jim Davis, Scott Brady, Andy Devine. The Road Hustlers are where it's happening. You can be too when you see The Road Hustlers.
In color, an American international release.
We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're going to catch me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, doctor, help me.
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're going to make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first.
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
Thank you for choosing the American International Podcast. I'm Jeff Markin.
I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And this week we find ourselves on the rural back roads of the Carolinas, running from revenuers with the Road Hustlers from 1968.
The Road Hustlers was directed by Larry E. Jackson, written by Robert V. Barron and Larry E. Jackson, and produced by Larry E. Jackson, Tom Jenkins, and Robert M. Newsom for Saturn Productions.
The Road Hustlers stars Jim Davis as Noah Reedy, Scott Brady as Earl Veasey, Bruce Yarnell as Matt Reedy, Robert Dix as Mark Reedy, Victoria Carroll as Nadine, Andy Devine as Sheriff Estep, Sue Raney as Helen, Christian Anderson as Luke Reedy.
It also stars Theodore Lehmann as Hagar, John Bud Cardos as Chandler, Bill McKinney as Hayes, Bill MacDowell as Bassett, Jack Lester as Eskie, Sid Lawrence as Deke, Derek Hughes as Ted, Monica Davis as Martha Lou, Marshall Lockhart as Nelly, Jim E. Quick as Imhoff, Jack Morey as Harrison, and Bert Holland as an agent.
Road Hustler starts, interestingly enough, with a news helicopter hovering over the Blue Ridge Mountains in the Carolinas. A narrator tells us there's a war going on. You can't see it, but it's a moonshine war.
And then the movie proper starts with cars racing down dirt roads. We see a still in operation, and our Road Hustlers theme song plays. As the song ends, we see Mark Reedy, one of our main characters, loping through the trees. He stops in his tracks when he hears a voice coming over a loudspeaker.
The voice tells him to come closer to the camera so he can see who he is. Mark walks over and announces himself. "It's me, Mr. Bassett," he says. Bassett is elsewhere, monitoring the camera and speaking over the loudspeaker.
Bassett asks Mark what he's doing out there, and Mark says that his pa sent him over to borrow a case of moonshine. They ran short for whatever reason, and they have an order to fill. Bassett says he can help them out.
Not too far away are some federal revenue agents. They're waiting for 2 new agents who are supposed to be coming down to join them, and they're all there to clean up the moonshine problem in the area. And here comes the car now.
The car parks and 2 men get out. Agents Chandler and Hayes introduce themselves to Agent Harrison and his 2 men, Brown and Henry. Harrison asks if the 2 newcomers know that they're going after moonshiners, and they do.
Harrison sends his men out while he takes the newbies out through the swamp. By now, Mark Reedy has made it to Bassett's still, which is being overseen by Eskie, the resident clown, or one of the resident clowns. Bassett greets Mark, then tells him that the feds have been taking his stills, and they have him on the run. Then Eskie notices the feds coming from the south, that's the aforementioned Harrison and Chandler and Hayes, and he goes to warn Bassett.
Bassett tells Eskie to draw them off in another direction, but Eskie is too chicken. Chandler and Hayes come into the clearing, and Bassett and Mark take cover, guns drawn, while Eskie hides in the outhouse. Shots are fired, and then Mark and Bassett run for it.
During the chaos, Harrison knocks down and captures another runner. It's just some kid, and we have no idea who he is.
Just some dude in a striped shirt.
Back on the main road, Sheriff Estep drives up in his car, and he heads off on foot to join the others. And now the shiners have been run off, and the feds have control of the still, they can take a moment for a conversation. Hayes asks Harrison how they find the stills when they're hiding in the middle of nowhere. Harrison tells the new agents that they usually get tipped by phone. A bounty hunter looking for a reward, suggests Chandler, or a competitor maybe? But Harrison tells them that the moonshiners have a code of honor between them, and they'd sooner work together than with the law. Just then, the sheriff joins the others, and Harrison introduces him to the new agents. Harrison is retiring soon, and Chandler and Hayes will be taking over the territory.
Harrison tells Hayes and Chandler that Estep knows everything about the local moonshine running business. From his position in the outhouse, Eskie sees one of the agents setting charges around the still. They're going to blow it up real good. Estep says that he hates to see such a magnificent specimen go, but still he joins everyone as they clear away from the blast radius. Eskie stays put in the outhouse until the still is detonated, and then he runs for it.
Bassett and Mark have made it to Mark's car when they hear the explosion. Bassett says that's it for him, 30 years of his work up in smoke. Mark asks if Bassett has an idea who might have tipped the agents. He suspects it was Earl Veasey. He's been trying to get Bassett to join his syndicate for a while. Mark says his pa has been worried about Veasey ever since he came into town. Bassett asks Mark if he can get him a ride to his car, and Mark obliges.
And now we're at one of the Reedy stills. Hagar, who takes care of it, tests some shine, and then makes a call to the Reedy patriarch, Noah. When Noah answers, Hagar tells him that he needs more sugar for the sour mash. Noah wonders why he hasn't bought it already. He authorized it last week. Hagar says there are too many revenuers about. You buy 100 pounds of sugar, you may as well put the handcuffs on yourself. Noah asks why didn't Imhoff bring him the sugar like he was supposed to, and Hagar says that Imhoff was stopped by Veasey's men, and thus could not perform that task.
So Noah tells Hagar to get all his kinfolk together, and they should each buy 10-pound bags of sugar from different places. That would be less suspicious. Hagar says things aren't like the old days. The syndicate moved in and really got them up against the wall. That's what they want you to think, says Noah. But they ain't hurt us none yet. He says he's going to have to go down and have a talk with Earl Veasey.
And now we're in the car with Mark, who's hauling ass down a dirt road. Our new agents, Chandler and Hayes, spot him. We get a shot of moonshine, so Mark's hauling some of that as well.
Chandler and Hayes try to keep up, but the car in front of them is raising so much dust that they lose sight of their quarry. They pull over and radio to Harrison that they've lost sight of him. Then they hear a splash from the nearby pond. They look over and see Harrison's car is what caused it. Harrison radios back and lets them know that the area is theirs now. He's retired.
Moonshine running is a them problem now. Chandler and Hayes get back on the road to find that car they were chasing. And then we see Mark pulling off the road into a hidden driveway. His brother Luke uncovers it for him, and then returns the leafy camouflage to its position, as the agents drive past it none the wiser.
Now we're back on the road where other brother Matt is speeding along. He drives past where Chandler and Hayes are parked at the side of the road. The agents recognize the car and give chase, and they all pass the sheriff, who joins in. At the sound of the sheriff's sirens, Matt pulls over, and the agents start questioning him and patting him down. The sheriff gets out of his car to observe their process.
Estep asks them what's going on. Chandler and Hayes say they pulled Matt over for running moonshine. Matt feigns innocence and asks if they have a warrant when Hayes asks them to pop the trunk. They grab the keys and open it and look anyways, but only see a load of bricks. A grinning Estep gives Matt a speeding ticket, as Matt uses the defense of, "These unknown persons tried to run me off the road. I had to speed."
Chandler tells the sheriff that this is a federal case, but the sheriff continues to write on his speeding ticket, asking what they've got on him. "I told you," says Chandler, "running moonshine." "And where's your evidence?" asks the sheriff. He says that unless there's a new federal law that he hasn't heard of against hauling bricks at high speeds, they got nothing that will hold up in court. So he's going to save the taxpayers some money and them a lot of trouble by writing up this ticket for speeding.
Hayes says he thought the local law was supposed to back them up. Estep says he's doing them a solid by keeping them from trying to prosecute an unwinnable case. They'll have to settle for the one thing they can get Matt for, speeding. Estep good-naturedly tells them that Matt was a decoy and that they fell for it. And though he admits that he knows Matt and the others have broken the law, Matt's never going to admit it. So they really have nothing. Chandler tells Estep that they have a lot to learn. Matt asks if he can have his ticket now. Pa worries when he's out late. Estep advises Matt that his luck won't hold out forever, and Matt cheekily tells the agents that they're going to use these bricks for a new outhouse.
Matt asks if he can go now, and the sheriff wishes him well. Then the sheriff tells the agents that Noah Reedy is the smartest, slipperiest moonshiner in these parts, and if the sheriff ever found a reason to put a Reedy behind bars, he'd do so in a second. And if the two of them could get a conviction for a Reedy, he would doff his hat and kiss his wrist in Main Street at high noon. He goes on to praise Reedy's shine. It's not blinding or maiming anyone like some of the other stuff. And he does note one more thing. It's not bad drinking either.
And now we see Matt parking in the lot outside his house. They have a lot of cars. We see another car, a Model T, parking, and Luke gets out. He and Matt play fight until some old woman comes out and scolds them for not coming in for supper. And then they all clomp into the house. Inside the house, Nelly, the old woman, shrieks that Matt and Luke are there.
Matt and Luke head inside, and Matt tells his pa, Noah, that he got a little present from Sheriff Estep today. Noah pockets the ticket and asks if the sheriff gave him any guff about taking away his license or anything like that. Matt says he didn't. Then they all bow their heads to say grace. And as they're doing this, Mark comes in, and he sits at the table. Noah asks him why he's late. Mark says he had to make a stop on the way home.
He doesn't want to admit where he went, though. Noah starts grilling Mark on where he's been. It takes a while to get it out of him, but Mark sheepishly admits that he went to the library. Noah is flabbergasted. Matt snickers and asks his pa to get Mark to say what he was doing at the library. Mark, still red-faced, said he was getting a book. "A book!" Noah exclaims. Matt intimates that Mark was really there trying to pick up the pretty librarian, but Mark is sticking to his story. He went there for a book.
"Yeah," laughs Matt. "That's what you were trying to pick up. A book." The phone rings, so Noah goes to pick it up. It's Hagar. Hagar is complaining because they've got stock to push out, and he's the only one out there. Noah tells him to calm down. This is the first he's heard that Hagar was out there alone. "What happened to Billy Joe?" he asks. The same thing happened to the other 3 helpers. They just stopped showing up. Noah asks why they would have all quit, and Hagar says the toughs from the syndicate must have gotten to them. Either offered them a better deal, or more likely just scared them off from working for Noah.
Noah vows again to go talk to Veasey, but Hagar wants to know in the meantime who's going to help him. Noah proposes that Eskie come and help, but Hagar objects.
"Eskie Morris," complains Hagar. "That's like sending a rabbit to work in a lettuce patch."
and they can't both do shtick. They'll cancel each other out. But no, really, he's objecting because Eskie will drink the product as fast as they can make it. Noah offers to send Luke as well.
Luke and Eskie, my cup runneth over.
But he sees the liquor overflowing its container and tells Noah that he should just send someone as soon as possible. Noah rings off and returns to the table to tell Luke to get Eskie, and the two of them should go to the still to help Hagar.
Matt says if he and Mark aren't needed tonight, he'd like to go to the roadhouse. Noah says that'll be fine, but first they've got a stop to make. He asks Matt if he knows if Earl Veasey is still staying on his houseboat. Matt says yeah, he doesn't like to stay in one place very long. And Luke pipes up that he's currently docked at Hunt's Cove.
The next scene opens with torso. Some chick in an orange crop top and yellow hip huggers is gyrating, while another makes a tray of drinks. We're on Earl Veasey's houseboat. Or so we're meant to think.
Earl Veasey comes out wearing a red smoking jacket. He goes to the galley to get drinks for his guests.
He looks like a bargain basement hef.
Nadine is the girl dancing, and Martha Lou is the other, and she complains about having to play bartender while Veasey comes to gather his drinks.
He's having a business meeting in a room that looks like my mom's paneled basement from the 1970s.
Bassett is there with him, and Veasey hands him a drink to celebrate his joining the syndicate.
He points to Imhoff, a squirrely sycophant who yes sirs his every request. Veasey, Imhoff, and Veasey's bodyguard, Deke, share a toast, but Bassett doesn't partake. He's not in a celebratory mood.
Then Veasey hears a boat pulling up outside and sends Deke to check it out.
Hopefully he can see something because we can't.
It's Noah, Matt, and Mark, and they're brought aboard. Noah tells the boys to wait with Nadine and Martha Lou while he goes to talk with Veasey. And Nadine asks the boys if she can get them something to drink.
Noah goes into Veasey's conference room / office. Well, says Veasey. Noah sees Bassett and asks why he's here. Bassett says that Veasey whipped him. He had no choice. Veasey reframes it as convincing him to be practical. The syndicate sells twice what Noah could sell on his own, but Noah says he doesn't want to work for Veasey. Veasey tells him to not let his pride get in the way of his success. Noah says his pride is what keeps him going.
Noah was surprised to see Bassett here, but he's not surprised to see that Imhoff has joined the syndicate with that varnish remover he provides that he calls whiskey. Noah tells Veasey that he hasn't managed to take a single customer from him yet. He's not going to back down like Bassett did, so he better stop pushing or he'll start pushing back.
Veasey declares that Noah will join his syndicate or he'll be out of business permanently. No matter what Veasey threatens, Noah doesn't care.
Then Veasey tells everyone to beat it. He's got work to do. As they exit, Imhoff tells Noah that he thinks Noah would do well to think this thing over. Noah wrangles his sons, Matt is dancing with Nadine, and they head outside. But Bill Bassett stops Noah and explains that he fought Veasey for as long as he could, but a man's gotta live, you know? And now that Noah is the last big bootlegger outside of the syndicate, Veasey is going to concentrate all his big guns on him, just like he did to Bassett.
Noah tells Bassett that Veasey can try, ... Then he orders his boys to get in the boat. They do, bringing Nadine and Martha Lou with them. When Veasey goes looking for the women, he gets incensed when Imhoff tells him where they went.
They left with the Reedys.
Infuriating Veasey. Now we're with Matt and Mark at the Roadhouse with Nadine and Martha Lou.
People are awkwardly dancing to even more awkward music. It kind of sounds like Herb Alpert and Tijuana Brass along with a twangy guitar and an organ. It's a strange combination.
This soundtrack is bizarre. Start to finish. Drinks are served and Martha Lou starts pounding hers back. After she gets good and soused, she excuses herself to go to the ladies, and Nadine goes to help her inebriated friend.
And then a brother and sister couple come to the table. This is Ted and Helen Courtney.
This is the South. You might want to say they're a couple. Although, I mean, we don't know. Then some of Matt and Mark's high school friends stop by. This is the brother-sister duo of Ted and Helen Courtney.
Ted tells them that they've got a party there, and if they had known Matt and Mark were coming, they'd have saved them some spots. And they should consider coming to work for his father's trucking company.
Helen invites them to their beach party that's happening tomorrow. Matt and Mark decline both invitations, but Ted and Helen graciously tell Matt that he can come by and swim in their pool anytime. He just needs to bring a suit with him.
She leaves as Nadine and Martha Lou return. Who is that? Nadine asks. Matt explains that Mark had to kiss Helen in a school play way back when, so he decided to take her out for a few years to make an honest woman of her. Mark and Helen exchange looks from across the room.
Nadine gets up to shake her stuff on the dance floor as Matt watches, kind of dancing himself, but it looks like no one can take their eyes off Nadine. Martha Lou staggers back to the table to guzzle more beer. She is hammered. She scarfs another beer and then passes out on the table.
She's reached her limit.
Well, her limit stopped when she did. Nadine stops gyrating and returns to the table to berate Martha Lou, but Martha Lou is beyond shame and hearing. Mark tells Nadine to see that she gets home and then takes off. He goes outside where it's dark and gets into his car. Someone in their car is watching him go and follows behind him.
And now there's a car chase at night. Mark is driving one car. It's too dark to really see what's happening, at least on the copy that was available to us, but it sounds like Mark blows a tire and ends up in the lake somehow.
Lake, stream, pond. It's impossible to tell. It's so dark.
The other car's occupants, who I guess we assume are Veasey's goons, say that's one Reedy they won't have to worry about. Har har.
It looks like we see Mark walking away from this accident. But again,
if you say so.
The print is so bad that they film night for night. There's absolutely no illumination. But mercifully, we're back in the light for the next scene. Estep is offering Noah condolences on the death of his son, Mark. Noah vows to make Veasey pay, as Estep tells him not to jump to conclusions. We don't know that it was Veasey. And then the dramatic tension gets completely shredded as Mark saunters in, looking damp and dirty but uninjured.
Evening, Pa. Evening, Sheriff, he says. Noah grabs him. My God, boy, I am so glad to see you. Noah turns to the sheriff and tells him that the Reedys have each got 9 lives. The sheriff is dumbfounded. He's got 4 men tearing apart the wreckage of his car, trying to find Mark's body. Mark says they won't find it because he brought it home with him. But the sheriff is still requiring an explanation. So Mark says he lost control of the car in the dark, and that's all that happened. But the sheriff isn't convinced by this story. Noah had been so sure that Veasey was involved, but Noah says that he was just worked up before, and if Mark says it was just an accident, that's good enough for him.
Estep is hopping mad as he tells Noah that this is beyond a private squabble. If Mark could testify against Veasey, then he could end this syndicate for good. Estep says for the first time, the law is on their side, and they should put aside their stupid code of honor and cooperate with him. But Noah stubbornly refuses.
The sheriff says that they haven't had a moonshiners' war in nearly 30 years, but he could still remember the last one, and Noah better not do anything to start another one.
Noah says that he's going to work it out with Veasey, but peacefully, and that the sheriff doesn't need to worry.
The sheriff leaves, and Noah asks Mark if he's all right, then confirms that it was Veasey behind it. Mark says it was, and they were playing for keeps. Mark asks if they're going to cancel tomorrow's run, and Noah says he's got Luke and Eskie helping out at the still, so tomorrow, Matt and Mark will make the lake run as scheduled.
You're not canceling a damn thing.
In the meantime, Noah has a lot of planning to do and supplies to get. Mark apologizes for the car, but Noah tells him not to worry about it and sends him off to bed.
Noah details the supplies that he needs to get. Gunpowder, dynamite, and sugar, but we already knew that one. And now it's the next day. We see Matt on a speedboat, but when we get to Mark, he's still at home in bed, and Nadine's on top of him.
Mark awakens to Nadine's caress. What the Sam Hill are you doing here? Why, she asks. Who were you expecting? Noah appears in the doorway. Son, you should see the look on your face. Oh, now, Pa, that's a terrible thing to do to a man, says Mark. And he's going to show what happens to girls who play around with fire.
And Nadine's wearing only a bikini, and Mark starts wrestling her, so she jumps out of bed and runs into Noah's arms. Noah starts fondling her. She calls him a dirty old man, and she says that this place is a den of sex fiends. Yeah, ain't it wonderful, says Mark, who then asks why she's really there. Nadine says that Matt promised her a ride on the boat. Mark says, oh, they can't do that. But Noah counters that if it's just a bunch of young people looking like they're having an outing, no one's going to be suspicious of whatever they're doing. And then Nadine skedaddles before she gets groped again.
And then we get a scene that shows the dynamic between Eskie and Hagar.
And as predicted, they're both sticking away.
And it ends with them breaking a bunch of bottles. The outdoor phone rings and Hagar answers it by yelling, what do you want?
Eskie's drunk, Hagar's having a fit, and none of it is amusing.
Noah was just calling to see if Luke and Eskie had made it down there okay, and Hagar answers sarcastically. Noah tells him that Matt and Mark are doing a pickup at Walker's Point today and to send Luke and Eskie out to meet them. And one more thing, he tells Hagar to be happy with his work.
At some point in the conversation, we see that Deke has somehow tapped into this line and is listening to the conversation.
It seems to be a privately installed line that just goes from the Reedy house to the still.
Yeah, it's really weird to see phones out in the open in 1968, but this is some sort of rural thing that they have going on. Deke thanks Reedy for the intel as he puts down his receiver. I don't really know what was happening when this scene began, but it turns out Luke and Eskie are using burros to haul boxes down to the lake. This is the delivery that Matt and Mark are picking up.
The speedboat pulls near the shore, and Eskie and Luke toss the boxes to Mark, who puts them in the boat.
And Matt and Nadine are there too. And then they go water skiing. Fun! And it looks like everyone is kitted out in safety gear. So responsible fun.
Mark is on the skis while Matt steers the boat. On another speedboat is Veasey and Deke. They begin to chase after the Reedy's boat, but Matt starts lobbing sticks of dynamite behind him.
I'm not sure what's going on here. This is so funny, though.
It looks like he's doing it just to annoy his brother, who's behind him on the skis.
There's a box of dynamite sitting next to Matt. He reaches in, he sticks the wick of the dynamite in front of a propane lighter, throws it over his head. Mark has to dodge it. This is what they do for fun, I guess. Wild boys.
Eventually, Mark wipes out and he starts swimming to shore. Matt continues to lob sticks of dynamite behind him, and one catches Veasey's boat, and it goes boom.
Yep, it breaks the boat in half. More on that later in our notes. Nadine is delighted by this, and Veasey and Deke have to swim for it.
Then we see Marcus sitting on the shore, waiting for his brother to come back and pick him up. He stands when a boat approaches, but this one is Ted and Helen Courtney's. They were headed to that beach party that Helen told them about.
Helen greets Mark and introduces Ted's girlfriend, Mary Brooker. Mark jumps into their boat, and then they speed off to a dock where some kids are playing. Mark and Helen get dropped off, and then they start walking.
Helen asks Mark why he won't even talk to Ted about joining her father's trucking company, and Ted says he's got his own family empire to run. Just yesterday, there was a meeting of the board, and he was elected chairman.
Helen gives Mark the hard sell. They really need him and Matt. They're not just asking to be nice, and their job would be safe and secure. Mark says, oh, by safe and secure, you mean dull and boring.
They take a seat and Helen serenades him with a song about all the lovely things. It's fine, if more than a little out of place.
It's a weird song. It kind of sounds like she's noting the class difference between the two of them because they're rich and obviously the Reedys aren't, that she knows. And Mark looks like he's barely tolerating this torch song.
Nevertheless, when she's finished, they share a kiss.
I think she's got it bad for him. Back with Chandler and Hayes, they are taking the remains of a still to their car where Estep is standing. He's always on the spot, isn't he? Hayes asks if what they got was one of Reedy's, and Estep thinks not. It's got no class.
The sheriff says that's the cheapest excuse for a still he's ever seen, and he'll bet if they tear it apart, they'll find a dead rabbit or squirrel in there. The rock cut shiners use that to speed up the fermenting process. Chandler says, okay, but at least we're learning. Estep says he hates to tell them this, but they've got nothing. All they've done is set off an alarm. What the shiners do is build a small still that's easy to find. Then a mile away, they build a bigger one. Then 2 miles away, they build the real one. Chandler says what the sheriff is telling them is they found a decoy. He tells Hayes they should get back out and continue looking, but the sheriff says they won't find anything now. Like he says, they set off an alarm, and Chandler and Hayes behaved just as they were supposed to. They got to work tearing down the still instead of looking for the real one, giving the moonshiners time to pack out and move on.
Chandler takes this in stride. Estep says that there won't be any moonshine in a 25-mile radius from where they found that still, but he tells them that they're learning, and to leave that smelly stuff there before they head back. At the Reedys, Noah and his boys seem to be loading gasoline into the trunk, but not in gas cans. They're just pouring it in.
I guess what they're doing is rigging their car to spew gasoline and shoot fireballs?
Something like that. Luke goes to light a cigarette, and Noah smacks it out of his hand. Gasoline, he says. They ask Matt to test it, and yeah, gasoline sprays out the back of the car.
So the next time one of them is pursued, again, the print's too dark to determine who's driving, but small fireballs shoot out from the rear of the car, and the one following them drives off the hillside and into the lake, I think.
Sure, why not?
Then we see several scenes where the Reedys are tormenting Veasey and spoiling his plans.
One of those scenes involves Eskie, Hagar, and Luke dropping a bunch of barrels in front of Veasey's men's car as it drives by.
Imhoff and another guy crawl from the car.
And now we're with Veasey, and he's dressed like one of the Spy vs. Spy guys. Got a fedora and sunglasses and a black suit. They're watching a car approach and thinks that he's got one of the Reedys this time. But it's Mark, and he drives straight through Veasey's barn and out the back of it. Veasey and Deke get in the car to pursue, but Luke has parked his Model T in their path, stopping, or at least slowing them down.
So now on the houseboat at another syndicate meeting, Bassett can't help but be amused that the Reedys continue to make a fool of Veasey. But Imhoff instead tries to deliver a pep talk. Nobody, not even the feds, has been able to shut down the Reedys in 30 years, so Veasey shouldn't feel too bad.
But Veasey says that he doesn't play by the same rules that the feds have to, and he orders his minions to round up some men and meet him on the back road behind the Reedy house. They're going to do something. Imhoff hangs behind to tell Bassett that he's not going along. Veasey still doesn't trust him to not warn Reedy of the plan. Then Imhoff makes a call to Tom and outlines the whole plan so that Bassett can hear him. I guess he's going to leave him alone with the phones so he can't warn Noah about the plan. That would have been kind of a funny scene if we had seen that call.
At the Reedy home, we see Noah has fallen asleep in front of the television, and that's the only explanation for him watching what's on right now.
Yeah, there's a bunch of dancing girls on their strange, extremely tall, square TV.
Across the room, we see Matt and Mark double dating with Nadine and Helen, each with a girl on his lap, and they're all making out. Outside in the dark, Veasey and his men synchronize their watches. They're going to make their move at 11:30 sharp.
Didn't Imhoff say 12:30?
He did.
Moving on.
They split up into two factions and moved to surround the house.
We're just going to have to tell you what we think is happening here because, again, the outdoor scenes at night are filmed with zero illumination. So we're guessing that Hagar and Eskie are setting off fireworks to ward off the intruders. It makes noise, which startles the young smoochers inside the house, but does not dampen their ardor. They smooch on.
The noise does wake up Noah, though, but he doesn't seem too concerned by it.
No, he just snaps off the television as the fireworks show continues. Then Veasey's gang starts to make a run for it as the incendiary devices start hitting a little too close to their defensive positions. Veasey's men trample him in their haste to escape.
But they all reconvene at Veasey's boathouse. Bassett laughs at the condition they return in. Veasey decides what they need to do is bring down their prices to take Reedy out of business. Imhoff is concerned that will cut into their profits, but Veasey says it's only temporary, just until they drive Reedy under. But Bassett points out that they're selling their product at $12 to $14 a gallon. Reedy's stuff goes for $20 to $25, and his customers are happy to pay it. The best stuff they got is already half of what Reedy's customers pay. Lowering their prices isn't going to get them any turnover from Reedy's customer base. Veasey decides he needs to think about this, so he kicks everyone off his boat.
Except for Deke, who remains on the bed with him. No, seriously. And now another Operation Get Reedy plan is unfolding. Hagar is meeting someone on a back road for that supply of sugar he's been asking for the entire movie. But no, it's Veasey's men. They move in and catch him. They ask where Reedy keeps his mane still, but Hagar won't talk, so Veasey has his gorilla Deke rough him up some. It doesn't work, so Veasey tells Deke to keep going, and Hagar is knocked out and loaded into Veasey's car.
They drive Hagar over to Reedy's house and dump him out in front of it. Noah, Mark, Matt, and Eskie run out to check on him. Hagar's still alive, so they carry him inside. They put Hagar in a bed, and Noah asks him if it was Veasey. Hagar mumbles that that's a stupid question. Of course it was Veasey. Then Noah addresses his sons. They're through playing games. It's time they put Veasey out of business for good.
They need to blow up those syndicate stills. Matt thinks that they'll never find them, but Luke says it won't be hard at all, and Noah agrees. They tell Eskie that he needs to sober up some farmers or something, but what it boils down to is that they need some pigs.
So the next day they go out and get some pigs, and then they go out still hunting with them.
Apparently in the same way that pigs are great at sniffing out truffles, they can also sniff out sour mash.
So Luke and Eskie take to the Carolina hills with
2 pigs.
With 2 pigs on a rope.
And I guess it works. I can only imagine how much ground they had to cover to find even one of these hidden stills.
After a long day of still hunting, they've mapped half of Veasey's stills, and the Reedys plan their next move.
Mark cautions that after they hit 1 or 2 of Veasey's stills, Veasey will be protecting the rest, and they'll never get to them. But Noah says that's why they have to hit them all at once.
He pulls on a couple of time bombs from somewhere. How about that, he says. So that night, Luke and Eskie are tasked with placing time bombs at the stills that they've discovered.
Again, how much ground would they have had to cover in one night with all this dynamite in the pitch dark? It's not even starlight. And this eats up a lot of screen time. The next day, Eskie and Luke return home as the family is having breakfast. Hagar is there too, grouchily complaining that he's fine. No, not really, but there's work to do, so he can't lay about. Luke and Eskie say it's all done, and when Eskie is offered a cup of coffee, he counters that he'd rather have some whiskey.
Noah tells the room that in about 5 minutes, Mr. Veasey is going to experience a little setback.
And then Noah's got a big one for him after that.
And then it's 5 minutes later, the bombs go off and the stills are destroyed. Veasey is at his desk in his boathouse with 6 phones in front of him, and they're all ringing. He's doing his best to take calls from his annoyed syndicate members whose stills have been blasted.
Veasey promises restitution for their losses, but eventually he just gets 1 too many calls and sweeps the phones off his desk. Bassett's there laughing. He's loving this for Veasey, and Veasey chucks his drink at him.
Now we're back with Sheriff Estep. He's fishing, and Chandler and Hayes come up. Estep tells them to keep it down. He doesn't want them scaring the fish away. Chandler says, though he hates to admit it, it seems that Reedy has been doing their jobs for them. The head office sent a telegram, and moonshine runs are off 50% since Reedy declared war on the syndicate. And to top it off, they're congratulated on doing a great job. The only thing is, they want to know how they're managing it without making a single arrest or even 1 conviction. Sheriff Estep tells them not to worry. They've all been so busy fighting one another that they've forgotten the rest of them are around.
All this infighting will lead to carelessness, and Chandler and Hayes should get to nab someone. Chandler says his heart isn't breaking if the moonshiners are taking each other out. Be very quiet. Luke and Eskie are hunting eavesdroppers.
Eskie and Luke are patrolling the area near the still, and they happen upon Deke manning the tapped line. Realizing what's happening, they run back to tell Noah what they saw.
Noah realizes that that's how Veasey's men have been able to get the drop on them. Noah says they're going to make that work for them, and he calls Hagar to set up a faux delivery, telling him that an out-of-town buyer wants all their stock. The drop is tonight at midnight at the abandoned warehouse at the railroad siding. He makes Hagar repeat this for Deke's benefit. Noah grins. His big brain plan is going to work.
As for Deke, he's delighted he's got something to report to Veasey. Now we're in a barn. Eskie is leaning against the wall, singing to himself and drinking as usual. And Bassett is there with him. Do you think he's coming, he asks. Eskie nods. Just then Noah pulls up in a car. He gets out and calls out to Bassett. Bassett tells Noah he's taking a chance meeting him out here. He also says that Deke made an anonymous call to the sheriff about that shipment tonight. He even told him the time and place. Noah says that's just what he'd hoped for.
Noah is very touched that Bassett has remained a loyal friend. Bassett tells Noah that I hate him.
Yes, Bassett who else knows about this. Veasey, Imhoff, Deke, and himself, says Bassett.
Noah asks if the rest of the syndicate bunch knows. Oh no, says Bassett. Veasey doesn't want them to know that he's a snitch, because one day he'll probably snitch on them too.
That evening, Imhoff seems to be alone at the houseboat when Noah and Matt sneak aboard. Matt has a gun, and Noah tells Imhoff to get on the phone and start making calls. He's going to tell all the syndicate members they're making a big delivery tonight. And now we're at a warehouse where the drop-off is supposed to happen, and Sheriff Estep and Chandler and Hayes are already there and wait. As each of the syndicate members arrive, they're all arrested and gathered into a room.
Lots of syndicate guys have been busted. Enough to break up the entire syndicate, says Chandler, who loves that Reedy pulled this off for them. I don't know what's happening here. We see Eskie and Luke on the houseboat, and they're tossing Veasey's men overboard?
Yeah, they're taking care of any of the men that are still around by throwing them into the lake.
Where I guess they dissolve and they're never heard from again. At the same time, Noah is on his hammock talking to Estep. Noah expresses shock and dismay that his neighbors were engaged in such shameful activities.
Agents Chandler and Hayes are there too, and Chandler says he hopes that Mr. Reedy recovers from his shock. Hayes says he knows that Reedy was involved, but Reedy says the sheriff himself has said it was Veasey who called in that tip. Then we're back on the houseboat, and the Reedy boys are finishing off Deke and Veasey. Deke is thrown overboard, so Veasey is next. Despite his protest that they can't do this, he's Earl Veasey.
Do you know who my father is? But he goes in the lake anyway. Back with Noah, Hayes asks why Veasey would try to end his own operation. That is peculiar, isn't it? Asks Noah.
The sheriff says he just hopes he lives long enough to figure out just how Noah pulled this off. Then he notes that they didn't catch Mr. Imhoff in their bus last night. Noah laughs. I wouldn't worry about Mr. Imhoff, he says. He's all wet. Well, not yet. But he's about to be, as Mark and Luke are in the process of throwing him off the boat.
Now we're back at Noah's, where Chandler tells Reedy that he's glad the syndicate is DOA, and that it's been a pleasure working with him. But now Chandler and Hayes need to get back to work. They vow they'll get him one day. Estep tells him that he's been trying to do that for 30 years. And Noah just laughs.
Nelly comes out with a pitcher, and Noah offers a refreshment to the agents, but they decline and leave. The sheriff does accept, however. Noah tells Estep that if someone does get him someday, he hopes it's the sheriff. So do I, Noah, says Estep as he takes a swig from his glass. He starts choking. It's lemonade, not what he was expecting.
Noah raises his glass in a toast and says, "This sure as hell ain't lemonade," and he downs his whiskey. And then he sighs and leans back in his hammock. The credits roll and the theme song plays. Thanks are doled out to Sears Roebuck, the Speedboat Rental Company, the people of South Carolina, and those nameless moonshiners who shared their helpful technical information with the producers of this movie. And that's the end.
You are listening to the American International Podcast, and we're discussing The Road Hustlers from 1968.
Screenwriter Robert V. Barron played Luke Reedy in Road Hustlers, but he's credited as Christian Anderson.
The working title for Road Hustlers was White Lightning Road. Producer Robert Newsom said, "We must have tried a dozen different titles for this picture. We finally settled on The Road Hustlers, but this title automatically knocked us out of any chance of having a beauty contest in connection with the film."
The majority of filming for Road Hustlers took place in June and July of 1967, according to an article in the Columbia, South Carolina newspaper, The State. There's a lot of articles about this movie in local newspapers during this time, and that's where we got a lot of this information.
Road Hustlers editor, Roy V. Livingston, died in New York in late August 1967, and, according to the obituary published in the Columbia Record, Livingston's death occurred just minutes after completing the work of the project. He made his final edit at 4 p.m. that Monday, and by 5:15 he was found dead in the motel room from an apparent heart attack.
In an article published in February of 1968, Jim Davis told Bob Talbert of The State, a Columbia, South Carolina newspaper, that when he first walked onto the set of Road Hustlers, he almost walked straight off and took the first flight back to California. But on the second day, on set in Congaree, South Carolina, he began to change his mind. By day 3, according to Talbert, Davis was talking and acting like a native and praising the fledgling South Carolina motion picture industry.
Davis said his apprehension vanished when Larry Jackson, Road Hustler director and executive producer, went to work. Jackson was considered at the time one of the bright young men in the industry who was making audience-pleasing box office pictures. Jackson and Newsom said they weren't making the next Gone with the Wind or War and Peace. They were making a movie in the mold of the highly successful moonshine running film Thunder Road starring Robert Mitchum.
And according to that same article, when Saturn Productions became incorporated in the state, Robert Newsom was quoted as saying, "You can make $1 million Hollywood movie in South Carolina for $300,000, and that's what we intend to do." A year later, Talbot wrote that an ABC TV executive in New York was recently flabbergasted when told after seeing The Road Hustlers that the film had been brought right in at $300,000. Newsom said, "The television people put our picture in their $1 million category." They did?
In that same article, according to Davis, 84,000 feet of film were trimmed down to 8,410 feet of action-packed movie. Michael Colicchio composed the score, and Gerhard Mazer served as DP, shooting Eastman color shots of scenic Lexington and Richland counties in South Carolina around Lake Murray. Some filming took place in North Carolina as well.
Larry Jackson insisted on piloting the speedboat for the scene on the lake, doubling for Scott Brady, according to the Road Hustlers press book, which said that this happened after they couldn't find a replacement for stuntman Jeff Hunt, who was injured in a trial run of the scene, along with script girl Joyce King, who had been doubling for Vicky Carroll. Cameras were placed all around the lake to get shots of the actors playing the Reedys as they hurled dummy dynamite sticks overboard at Jackson's boat. The actual explosive charges were concealed under the surface of the lake, and Jackson was to steer his boat near them as they were remotely detonated. But the detonation timing was off, and a charge exploded under the speedboat, which was going nearly 100 miles per hour. The boat was nearly cracked in half, which we saw on screen, and Jackson and his passenger, tech crew member Forrest Carpenter, were thrown into the air. Both were hospitalized. Carpenter was off his feet for less than a month, but Jackson, who had 2 cracked discs in his back, was flat on his back for 4 weeks, according to a blurb in The State. According to the Pressbook write-up, he worked as much as he could from his bed.
The Road Hustlers had its world premiere at the Palmetto Theater in Columbia, South Carolina on February 5, 1968. According to the theater owner, Sam Suggs, the theater seats 1,368 people, and they had to turn away 1,000 people who wanted to attend. Jim Davis, Scott Brady, and Robert Dix were on hand, along with Robert Newsom, a native of Chesterfield, South Carolina. Miss Lexington County, Ava Ingle, greeted the stars at the airport upon their arrival. Sue Raney, who played Helen, and local actor Jimmy Quick, who played Imhoff, also appeared at the event.
The day after its world premiere, Road Hustlers opened in theaters all over North and South Carolina, before opening all over the South beginning in March of that year. An article published in early April 1968 said that American International had picked up the distribution rights to the film, but an article published in September of 1967 indicated that the film would be in theaters in the Carolinas in the following month, and that distribution would be shared by AIP and the Wilby Kinsey Service Corporation. After its run across the southern U.S., Road Hustlers opened in theaters across the country, paired with films like The Wild Racers and Fireball 500.
Saturn Productions offered theater owners the nearly destroyed boat mentioned earlier to set up in their lobbies to stir up interest in the film.
Robert Dix, along with AIP's Western Division sales manager Murray E. Gerson, met with 175 theater owners at a convention in Missoula, Montana, to promote AIP films, including the Road Hustlers. According to a March 1968 write-up by Den Curran in the Missoulian, Dix told the attendees that Road Hustlers was, quote, pure entertainment with a lot of action in it and a touch of Americana, end quote. Gerson said of AIP, quote, we make what we think they want to see, noting that more than 50% of Americans were under 25. Gerson said that AIP produced half of the 25 films per year that it distributes, and that, quote, we've had very few losers.
Taglines for the Road Hustlers include bold, big adventure, on wheels, water and whiskey.
Exposing the billion-dollar bootleg booze business.
Fighting the feds, mauling the mob, loving the sweet things.
Hands off their whiskey and their women.
It's the big hustle for the queens and kings of Whiskey Road.
Souped-up cars and souped-up boats. Dynamite action with illegal whiskey, women, and thrills.
The new booze-running generation takes on the feds and the mob, all at one time.
Floorboarding out of the whiskey country in a flat-out story of a hard-driving, car-wrecking whiskey war. Man, this movie had a lot of taglines.
Jim Davis, talking to Bob Talbert in The State, said he was pleased with the rough cuts of Road Hustlers and even more happy with the finished product. Movies have TV beat 10 ways to sundown, dude, when it comes to overall scene impact. That's a big picture you see up there, not a 21-inch glass tube. Take the scene where the gangster speedboat blows up, or those high-speed car chases over dirt country roads, or those whiskey stills blowing up. When you see these things on a movie screen, you're right there.
The review of Road Hustlers in the Columbia Record rated the musical score as excellent, really, and the film itself as fair, saying, quote, the plot is not a new one, but the acting is certainly passable. The humor, if anything, will make the movie go. The best job is done by Jim Davis, who plays the part of Noah Reedy. Bruce Yarnell and Bob Dix are almost convincing as the sons of Davis. It runs 96 minutes, and if you're looking for some beautiful scenery, some laughs, and action, you'll probably enjoy it.
Ray Benson of the Columbia Record interviewed people after the premiere, and the worst response he got was average and fair. Other comments include, a lot better than Thunder Road, pretty good, it really was, and I'm not just saying it to be nice. I hope they like it all over the state. South Carolina can use it to attract others. And I didn't know how pretty our state was until I saw it in real color.
In that same article, Robert Dix is quoted as saying, the proof of the pudding was that the audience enjoyed it so much. I watched them a bit as they watched the movie. I have no complaints. Scott Brady said, quote, it was beautifully cut and put together. The cameramen were working under adverse conditions a lot of times and did a lot of ad-libbing of their own. They did a great job. And Walter Pinson from the Charlotte branch of AIP thought it was terrific and said the film had more humor than Thunder Road.
Newsom told Bob Talbert that he and associate producer Tom Jenkins, a Columbia real estate businessman, were planning a second film of the type, saying, maybe we'll call it Son of Road Hustler. In the same article, Robert Dix said his own film production company, Dix International, was planning to produce a movie in South Carolina. Okay, Cheryl, Road Hustlers is a fairly unknown film in the AIP catalog.
Yeah, I was told two false things about this movie. The first one came in Rob Craig's book, who said that there was just no knowing if this was connected to AIP in any way. I found that to be strange because a little investigation, and admittedly I went through newspapers.com and looked up articles from the time period, showed that AIP is all over this movie.
Plus there's a press book available, and the trailer that we have isn't marked AIP in any way. But the radio spots that we have were on the American International label, so there's more than enough evidence to support that Rob Craig made an error here.
Yeah, there's an AIP number. It's in the Samuel Urkoff archive. It's in Box Office Magazine from the time listed as an AIP movie. And like I said, there were articles, the paper saying that AIP had picked up the distribution rights. So there's ample evidence that this is not just some random movie that with a tenuous connection to AIP. This is one of their movies. They didn't produce it, but it's definitely in their catalog.
Yeah, they picked it up and distributed it, and we're not ashamed of the fact.
The other bit of false information I got was from you, who said that you heard this was a terrible movie. And we actually found ourselves laughing a lot when we were watching it. It's kind of enjoyable.
Well, going in, I had very low expectations for this one. So I have to say that I was surprised that it wasn't as bad as it appeared. The trailer didn't give anything away, I'll tell you that much.
What as to the quality of the movie?
Yeah.
I will admit this movie is in the genre of dumb hillbilly, pardon the term, movies, but I think it's better than that. It's pretty fun.
Well, those movies can be hit or miss, and I would say this one's probably more in the hit category.
I do have issues with some parts of the movie. The characters of Hagar and Eskie are just dumb caricatures that, they could have been less shticky. They could have been less antic, and I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah, it is annoying whenever they turn up on screen.
Hagar especially, because he does the same thing where he's hopping mad all the time, and he repeats things over and over again. And Eskie just drinks a lot and does stuff that we're supposed to laugh at, but it's not funny at all. And then the other issue is that the night scenes, you can't see anything.
I think that's just in the copy that we had available. The source that we had included subtitles from some other language that I couldn't even recognize.
Country. They're in Swedish, I think.
And it's a really dark presentation. And the aspect ratio is off too. It's 3.83 by 3, which is almost 4 by 3, which is what it should be. So maybe that tall television you were talking about wasn't really as tall as it appeared.
No, I'm sure it was normal size. And Jim Davis looks awful tall and lean in this.
The dark scenes in this print that are unwatchable, some of those appear in the trailer and you can see them there. So if the elements for this film were ever found and it was remastered, it probably will never happen. They could actually make a watchable version of this film.
Well, I think it should happen.
I think it should too. I think this is one that there would be a small audience for.
Especially in the South. The people who did see it at the time really liked it. They liked seeing their hood on camera, their Boris, the place where they live.
And you'd think it was a cast of unknowns, but it's really not. They're not well known. But we have Jim Davis as Noah,
who went on to play Jock Ewing in Dallas for years, which was a huge at the time.
We have Robert Dix as Mark, and he appeared in Forbidden Planet. And we have Andy Devine as the sheriff, who is a well-known character actor. He was Buck, the stagecoach driver in Stagecoach. He was in a whole bunch of John Ford films, and he kind of sounds like if Pat Buttram had a frog in his throat. And Pat Buttram and Andy Devine actually both did voices in Disney's Robin Hood.
Oh, wow. Robert V. Barron, who was credited as Christian Anderson, who played Luke Reedy.
He was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as Abraham Lincoln, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there could be a lot of interest in this movie if someone were to find the master prints and make a new copy of it. And it's not streaming anywhere.
It's not even available anywhere. I went to a great lengths to even acquire this one.
I'm glad you did.
I want to get back to Andy Devine as the sheriff. I think he's really good. I've always enjoyed him as an actor. In fact, 30 years ago, when I was a lot younger, I used to do a really good Andy Devine imitation, and I had more control over my falsetto. I can't do it anymore, but I used to do a really good one. Now I kind of sound like Marge Simpson with the flu.
Well, were you doing Andy Devine from this movie or Andy Devine
I've never
from
seen this movie.
Stagecoach?
I was doing just the Andy Devine from John Ford movies.
Oh, okay. Well, he's a really funny character in this movie. This movie is full of funny characters. I thought I recognized Scott Brady from something because his picture in IMDb is so familiar. He looks like a male model. He's muscular and young and tan, posing by a pool in a bathing suit in this picture. And he looks so familiar, but I couldn't find anything that I recognized him from before this movie.
He was Earl Veasey, right?
Yeah. He gained some weight by the time he was in this movie. But back then, he looked like he probably hung out with Cary Grant. And
Robert Dix was a guest at the Monster Bash convention in 2011, I think it was, that I attended. And I wish I had seen this movie before then, because this is something I would have loved to have asked him about. I went to his panel and it might have come up. I don't remember because I wasn't familiar with the film, but I would love to hear his take on this today. But unfortunately, he's dead now, so that won't happen.
Oh, this movie did put me in mind of Dukes of Hazzard, which came out 11 years after this movie was released, to the point where I was wondering if maybe someone involved in the creation of that show had seen this movie.
Well, officially, Dukes of Hazzard is based on a film, I think called The Moonrunners or something like that.
Not Thunder Road?
No, it's another low-budget movie in this vein.
And I haven't seen a lot of moonshine movies, so maybe I'm mistaken.
I've seen a handful, and for the most part, I've enjoyed them. And I've always been surprised that I enjoy them.
Well, there's something satisfying about sticking it to the man, which is what everyone's trying to do here. But the Reedys are doing it in a more ethical way than Earl Veasey is.
Yeah, blowing up other people's property. There's nothing unethical about that.
Talking about Noah blowing up their property?
Yeah.
Well, he was driven to do that. He didn't want to. He was very live and let live. You can make a point that this is a victimless crime because the only people who seem to be victimized are the state revenuers who want their money. And unless, like, Imhoff is selling rotgut that turns people blind, obviously those people are victims as well. But other than that, it's just people doing a little capitalism on their own, not paying taxes on it.
It doesn't sound that bad, does it?
No, not to the point where people need to be jailed for it. Maybe a fine. But yeah, if they're selling poison, then sure, shut them down. So it's kind of fun just to see the feds get outsmarted by us common people.
Yeah, there is some satisfaction in watching that.
I mean, Chandler himself just kind of laughed it off. He didn't seem too affronted by the fact that they got outsmarted by Noah Reedy.
Hayes, on the other hand, didn't seem to appreciate it.
He was kind of uptight.
I like the relationship they presented with the quote-unquote law and the Reedys, where they know what the other one's doing, but they don't really talk about it. They're just going to wait for the other one to screw up and take advantage of it.
Estep's been waiting a long time to get his advantage, and he's not gotten it, so I don't think he's trying all that hard. I think it's just sort of a dance between the two, and they know the steps well.
And that makes for an interesting watch.
And there's no blood. Nobody's getting shot. People drive into lakes, and that seems to be the worst of it.
Every time somebody drives into a lake, their car is going to be on a commission.
But they have so many cars. It was hard determining when this movie was set, too, because the cars are so old-fashioned.
Yeah, it's so difficult because you have to not only recognize the characters, and all the men in this are brunette, all the women are blonde, except for Ted's girlfriend, whatever her name was, Mary Brooker, and she didn't have any lines, so it didn't matter. And the cars all pretty much look alike too. You can recognize Sheriff Estep's car because he's got the lights on top, but they all pretty much look the same. The feds drive a beige car, and everybody else seems to drive a black one.
They look like they'd be at home in the Bonnie and Clyde movie. But Luke has a Model T. He's got one of those really old-fashioned cars.
Is that the one he wrecked?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, good for him.
It was dark, though, so...
Yeah, I know. I couldn't really tell
guess.
what was driving what because we saw occasional headlights, and that was it, because it was a really dark print.
I don't think they would have destroyed that car. But yeah, there's nothing really modern about anything in this movie, even circa 1968 modern.
No, the telephone that they have rigged up between the Reedy home and the still is one of those old cranking...
Yeah, like you could call Hooterville with that phone.
He kind of did. So, Cheryl, why don't you put a grade on Road Hustlers using our AIP scale where A is awesome, I is intermediate, and P is pathetic?
Well, I'm not going to say that Road Hustlers is a fantastic movie. I am going to say that it's a really fun watch. It's very entertaining. I didn't care for the soundtrack. It's a bit too twangy and nondescript for me, which seems like a contradiction, but it's not. It's just sort of the same music playing over and over again, and it overpowers the action sometimes. So I would lose that if I was remaking this movie. But other than that, I thought it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed this movie. I laughed a lot. I'm not going to claim it's good storytelling. The plot's really tight and it holds together. It's just a lot of fun to watch, and I'm going to give this one an A. What do you think?
I'm going to agree with the soundtrack. The soundtrack is strange. There's a lot of brass, which you really wouldn't expect in this kind of movie. And there's the scene where Matt gets pulled over and they're playing this weird music, and they tell him to turn the radio down because apparently that's what he's actually listening to. And they go to the roadhouse, and this is the music they're dancing to.
What was that song that sounded like it came from the Munsters?
That, I think, was just some of their chase music. It kind of sounds like the Munsters incidental music. And to top it off, there's also a song in here that doesn't really fit. But I guess it extends the running time so they hit the full 90 minutes. But despite the weirdness, or maybe because of the weirdness, I think this is a fun movie. And definitely better than I was expecting. I would love to see a remastered version of this where we could actually see what's going on in the night scenes. And I doubt that it'll ever happen. I can't see anybody investing the money to do that, which is a shame because I think it's a fun movie and it could have a cult following if it was available, I think. I'm reluctant to give it an A, though, because of its
flaws.
Not because of its flaws, but I just don't feel it should be up there. I don't know. If I give this one an A, I have to reevaluate every movie I've ever watched.
I just live for the moment.
But I did enjoy it a lot. And okay, fine. I'm going to give it an A, too.
Peer pressure.
If it was stars, it'd be 4 out of 5 stars, maybe 3.5.
Yeah, it's above average.
Definitely above average, so I guess we have to give it an A.
Well, I'm glad you agree. But yeah, I think somebody should remaster this movie and maybe even put it in theaters. Be a great midnight movie. At AIPpod.com, you'll find our entire library of episodes dating back over 3 years. You can explore our social media links, reach out to us using our site's contact form, tell us what movie you'd love for us to review. We'd love to hear that and your comments on something we've said or anything else you want to tell us. Perhaps you can help us find some AIP movies missing from our library. Check out the list of what we're looking for on the site. While you're there, you can look over the advertising materials we have added for your viewing pleasure. We have lobby cards, posters, and trailers on display, and you can see where to watch the films that we cover, except for this one because we don't know. While you're on our site, consider purchasing an item from our store. You can get some cool gear and help keep the podcast coming to you till we run out of AIP films. And once again, you can find it all at AIPpod.com.
And that about does it for our tale of the Carolina back roads. Until next time, I'm Jeff Markin.
I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in. Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.